welcome to the great state of Texas, where they say that everything is bigger and it's easy to imagine cowboys on horseback riding into town. But Austin has replaced saloons with technology and glimmering lights, so if you're looking to let the horses run, you need to find the right venue. Welcome to Circuit of the Americas, the world-class purpose-built Formula One racing circuit just outside the city limits, where Ferrari makes its triumphant return with Ferrari Racing Days and the second round of the 2023 Ferrari Challenge North America Series. A world-class facility hosting arguably one of the most recognized automotive marques in history. It's time to let the horses run.
Beautiful day here at Circuit of the Americas, where the Formula One car is just finishing its final lap, and we'll dive into the pit lanes that we can begin qualifying for Coppa Shell. We were going to have our Coppa Shell&AM drivers out on track first. 9 of them here this weekend, trying to take the pole position for the third race of the 2023 championship. Hi everyone, I'm Shell&AM, joined by Brian Till and Amanda Busick down in the pits. But first, let's show you where we've been and where we are going. It was Homestead Miami Speedway to kick off the year, and now we're a mere 1,500 miles away at Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas. Next, it's Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. That'll be in a couple weeks' time, the middle of May. Then on to Circuit de la Sarthe for Le Mans. Not a championship round, but still open for North American competitors. Then joining Formula One in Montreal, Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Then Sonoma in the end of July. Road America, America's Park of Speed, in the beginning of September, and then rounding out the championship as it is in the World Finale Mondiale in Monza this year. Brian, it's a calendar that makes you kind of starstruck.
Well, you look at the last 3 and you go Sonoma, wine country, Wisconsin, cheese country, and then we go to Italian food.
Wine and cheese.
Yeah, we got it all. Right now we are in Circuit of the Americas, Austin, Texas, my home state, not my home city, but my home state. And this racetrack, purpose-built for Formula One, and there's not another facility like it currently in the United States. And it's just a spectacular racetrack. And look at the view. We're just outside the city limits of Austin. This racetrack has it all. Long straightaways. It's got tight corners, fast-flowing sections. The aerodynamics of your car need to work. So does the mechanical grip. You look at that track map. It's long. It's flowing. But you've got to put the laps together, and you can hurt yourself in qualifying. Turn 20 there, especially, you need the good run both in and out. Turn 1, you climb up about 5 stories to the apex of 1, down through 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's all this flowing 4th, 5th gear, kind of breathe off the throttle back in through turn 10. Blast down the hill into 11, heavy braking zone. Shay, you've said, and I agree 110%, most important corner on the racetrack, leads on to the longest straightaway. What you gain there pays dividends all the way to 12. What you lose there hurts you all the way to 12. One of the slowest corners on the racetrack, just about 50 miles an hour is turn 12. Then you'll work your way through another twisty bit section to the final turn 20, where, again, you've got to carry the good speed in and out to complete that lap. But the front straightaway here is long, it's uphill, and if you don't get a good run out of 20, you're going to suffer on the next lap because the very beginning of it is painful.
And look at that American flag blowing straight down the front straight, meaning you're going to have a headwind going all the way up. Your brake point might be a little bit later than you think it is.
And it's crazy late in turn 1 anyway. You've got this uphill braking zone. The hill is your friend, right?
Yes.
I mean, as soon as you come off the gas, you're going to slow down because of the hill and the elevation change that's there. The tricky thing about turn 1, though, and you know it, right about the time you want to turn the wheel to enter the corner, it plateaus. You need to keep the brake on so the weight stays on the nose over the plateau, gives you good turn in for the corner. You get a little impatient there, you're going to lose the front end. The car is going to understeer or push, as we call it, slide off the corner, and you're not going to get a good run down the hill.
I've done many laps around this track in street cars, namely minivans. Never figured out turn 15 properly because it's so difficult to just line up properly for that angle, and you always feel like you're cutting it off just a little bit too much. And then, of course, running wide over the rumble strips. That's what they're going to need to watch for in this qualifying.
Well, and every race car driver wants to go fast, right? But sometimes to go fast, you have to go slow. And at turn 1, turn 11, turn 12, especially turn 15, and then turn 20, you have to go slow. All of those corners are somewhere in the range of 46 to 52, 53 miles an hour. So it's one of those deals where you've turned 12. You're going 165 plus miles an hour on the brakes, those great big carbon brakes that these 488 Evos have, maybe in the ABS a little bit, and you're slowing down to about 50 miles an hour. You've got to be patient. You've got to go, I have to go slow here. Your brain's going, no, keep going fast. But if you do that, you're going to run off the track at the exit. You're going to blow the lap because the officials are watching you. And if you go beyond those red and white candy stripe curbings, they're going to call that outside track limits, and they're going to pull your lap.
You need to be careful of track limits as well, coming through the S's as Darren Bernstein is doing now on his outlap. We've talked about what it's like to be at this track and to be enjoying that headwind. Amanda, is it blowing your hair in completely the wrong direction, though?
I think you guys are going to see that pretty special here with the win, and we'll talk to Lisa about it. But Lisa, I want to talk to you first about just your weekend at Homestead. You picked up every point but one that weekend with your performance, and to see yourself at the top of that list, what an accomplishment is happening for you right now.
Yeah, no, it's been a really good journey thus far, and looking forward to seeing how the race weekend goes for me. I've done pretty well in practicing, and now I got to jump in the car for quali, so I got to run. But thank you.
Shay and Brian, and just real quickly, Shay and Brian in the booth are talking about the win. How does it affect the Ferrari?
It's a good thing right now, so hopefully I will get some good track time.
Hopefully we'll be talking to her in a few minutes' time as a pole sitter. I'm shocked. We are 12 and a half minutes to go in this qualifying session. Lisa Clark still with her helmet not even on. But, you know, she's coached by one of the best Ferrari drivers in the business, Alessandro Balzan, two-time IMSA champion. He's won basically every championship you can associate with Ferraris.
One of the nicest guys in the world.
One of the nicest guys in the world. I'm sure he's standing behind going, Lisa, hey, come on, get in the car. Let's go.
What's the matter, you?
Yeah, exactly. I love Bale.
But here's the thing. You and I talked about this with the Trofeo Pirelli qualifying. You really, about the second lap is the magic lap. The third one, you may still have some of the magic left in those Pirelli tires. But after that, so she can remain cool, calm, and collected and get back out there and get her lap time. What you don't want is for somebody to have a problem on the racetrack that shuts the session down, and if they needed to go time certain and end it, you not have any times at all.
Exactly, and for Lisa Clark, 2 second-place finishes here last year. She knows how to do well at Circuit of the Americas, but she also knows it's a long track. You got to get the laps in.
Well, she knows how to go well at Homestead, too, as Amanda pointed out.
Yes.
It was like, she went into the weekend and she almost walked away with a perfect weekend. She made a 99 on her test, right? And I'll take a 99 any day.
Hey,
based upon my school record, I would take a 99 any day.
She's just one of the nicest people that you can find in the paddock, though, and to see the success that she had at Homestead, it was so gratifying because she got her first win in Italy last year. So it was her first win on American soil, and then she backed it up with another one, getting her first pole on American soil, backing it up with another one. This is Lisa Clark declaring, hey, it's my time to get this championship.
And you know this, and I know this because we've done it, and that is, how many drivers would we have tried to do that interview with at a high pro level caliber who would have looked at you and said, no. I have no time for you.
Yes.
Lisa Clark is about to climb into a 670 horsepower Ferrari 488 Challenge Evo and go blast around this racetrack and try to keep that record that she set at Homestead going. And she was cool, calm, and collected. She was a little bit in a hurry, but she took the time. And that, again, that's one of the things I think is magical about this paddock, and that is the drivers who are in it.
Brian, my boyfriend would have said no at that point. He would have turned and walked away from both of us. So.
Well, he says no to a lot of interviews, but it's not because he doesn't want to talk. It's just that he doesn't like to talk.
Well, fair enough, as we see a little bit of traffic out there on the circuit now.
You coached him well, though.
I tried. Darren Bernstein is pushing quite hard. He's driving car number 169 once again this weekend for Ferrari of Washington. He did a partial season last year, not including Circuit of the Americas. So Darren figuring out how to race at this track this weekend. It's been a bit of a learning curve, but after a 4th and a 5th place finish at Homestead, he comes in here in a fairly good position for a championship run, looking at maybe moving up to 3rd, 2nd. You never know.
Well, we talk about averages, and if you look at almost any championship in the world, somewhere around a 3.5 finishing average finishing position will get you a championship.
Yes.
And so he's good with that 4th and 5th. He's doing what he needs to do. Does he need to do more? Certainly. He needs to get some podium finishes. Right now, that Ferrari that he's piloting looks to me like they've kind of set it up a little bit softer. Remember when we were watching qualifying earlier, a lot of those cars kind of, like I said, up on a cat on a hot tin roof,
Yep.
kind of up on their tiptoes. But for Bernstein's car, it looked a little softer, a little more compliant. That may pay big dividends here.
Jeff Nunberg looks like he's got a soft car as well, as he's out there, Ferrari of Central New Jersey, the man who represents that dealership because he works there.
Well, there you go.
He loves being in these weekends. Very cautious is Jeff. He's very smart. Came into this championship after completing the ladder, if you will, going through Course Clienti and earning his way up, and then deciding, yeah, all right, I'll give the competition aspect a try. His first weekend, he ran out in the competition for the practice and the qualifying, and then said, no, I'm not ready for this yet. Moved back to Course Clienti. Very heads-up guy.
Not only very heads up, but the ego goes in the drawer when you do
Exactly.
that. You put it aside and say, I need to do a lot more work. I'll go back to something I said earlier. You and I know a lot of people who would not have said
never
that.
do that.
Who would have never said that. Right now, and for Nunberg too, that car looks a little bit softer. Obviously, when you first go out, we talked about tire pressures when we were talking about Trofeo Pirelli qualifying. Cruz sets the tire pressure a little bit lower because they know it's going to get hotter and the pressure is going to go up. Consequently, sidewall of the tire is going to stiffen up as you run this car, and that'll make it a little more agile. But right now, these cars look nice and compliant, and I think the crew's kind of looking at this racetrack going, let's give our customer, let's give our driver something that's comfortable to drive. A lot of times you can have a car that's a little bit quicker, but it's on a knife edge. If you're at 98%, you're slow. If you're at 102%, you're in the fence. And if you're 100%, you get the most out of it. Let's set it up to be if you're at 97% or 105% or anything in between, you're better. A little more rounded performance curve, but something that's more consistent. And one of the things that I look at, you were looking at too, is when you're a fan at home, you watch the front splitter of the car. You look at the aerodynamics. You see how it goes down under braking there. You see how it moves either very quickly, like a snap, like a light switch, or it just kind of feeds in under braking. Same with the load side to side. When you turn the wheel, the cornering load moves to the right or the left. You kind of get an idea of the driver's inputs and the suspension settings on the car by how quickly it rolls side to side. Does it look like it does it quickly? If it does, it's stiff like a board. If it doesn't and it moves gradually and slowly, it's probably set up a little bit softer like a wet noodle, so to speak. And it bends really easily and slowly and fluidly. So this car, the 121 or 127,
Lisa Clark.
looks like it's a little bit stiffer. It looks like it responds just a little bit quicker to the inputs that she's giving it.
Wow, what a lap from Lisa Clark.
There
A
you go.
2:10.903. I was thinking pole was going to be somewhere around a high 2:11, maybe a 2:12. What a great opening gambit by Lisa as Dan Cornish, her championship rival as he was last year as well. Dan Cornish, local man, drives his own Ferrari to the racetrack on these weekends and sleeps in his own bed 8/10ths behind what Clark was able to do.
And for Cornish, I feel like his car is a little unsure at turn in. He doesn't trust it. You watch the turn in for one. Lisa Clark came up there and said, boom, on the brakes, turn the wheel, enter the corner and go. And for Cornish, she came up there, turned in a little bit early, slow hands, kind of feeding it, seemingly unsure that the back was going to stay underneath it.
Yeah, patient hands, I would say.
I would say slow hands in this case, but that's okay.
Dan Cornish, 6th and a 5th in the race last year in the Coppa Shell&AM category.
But a lot of times you've got to let the car come to you, and then the line will adjust. So we'll have to look and see.
I'm wondering if Lisa Clark is going to go for another fast lap since Cornish is, well, within a second of her. That's not exactly a comfortable buffer, but for everyone else we've seen, it's been that one and done. So keeping an eye on scoring and an eye cautiously out the window to see if I see a blue and orange Ferrari drive in.
I think I would press the radio button and say, let me do just one more.
Lisa is very good at doing that.
Let me just do one more.
The team that supports her is Ferrari of Beverly Hills, but also known as Scuderia Corse. Very good organization as into the pit lane comes Darren Bernstein. So a third position, the best that we're going to see for car number 169. But who just moved up? Oh, Luis Perisquia. He's a driver who I expected to see a bit further up, the Ferrari Central New Jersey driver. Perisquia, who was very competitive in this championship last year. I think he wants a little bit more after Homestead, a third and a second. He came close to the win.
Well, yeah, on the podium both times, so that's good. But yeah, you can just sense it. It's right there in front of you. It makes you want it a little bit more. The 163 of Cornish. Think about this racetrack. We talked about it, Shay. It's got a little bit of everything, and you really have to work with your driver to go, okay, where do you want the car? Because if you want it to get grip in low-speed corners, it needs to be a little bit softer. So Cornish improves. It cuts down a little bit more. Now inside 0.8 of a second.
He found lap time.
Yeah.
Lisa did not. Lisa's lap was about a second slower than her fast lap.
Remember I said he needs to come to grips with the car, and as it comes to him, we may see him go a little bit quicker. It looks to me like they've got that car set up to work in the lower speed sections of the racetrack. The turns that he can brake later and go in and keep it loaded. Turn 1, turn 12, that's a good idea. Those are passing zones, right?
Yep, exactly. Anthony DiCarlo out there currently in the 8th position. We're still looking for a fast lap from him in car number 100, Wide World Ferrari, a teammate to Jason McCarthy, actually. So drivers who know how to go very well around here, Wide World Ferrari, a team very well established to win races, and Anthony DiCarlo, a guy who's quite used to running in the Coppa Shell&AM class. So everything kind of coming together for this organization, looking to see if Anthony can get his best ever finish in the series today, which it's a high mark to hit, but it's one I believe he can accomplish.
You know, I'm wondering, Lisa Clark's Ferrari looked to be much more stable and high speed, so I think a stiffer setup. We were just talking about it, right? A peaky setup where you've got to get it and it's right, and if you're on either side of it, maybe that's what we're seeing with Clark's car. It's a peakier setup. She put a good lap in, but if you miss the mark at all on the next lap, you're going to fall off and not be able to measure up. For Cornish, he's got a consistent car underneath him, and it's going consistently quicker over these last couple of laps. So ultimately, in qualifying, you probably want the peakier one to get the lap if you can do it. And come race time, though, you want something that's going to be stable and consistent the entire time.
Well, and I'm wondering if Lisa's car is going to be more stable through the S's. So
Yep.
she'll be able
I
to
think it would be.
run away
Right.
a little bit
Well,
at the start, maybe necessarily, and they're expecting everything
So which
to
car do
close
you
back
want?
in. I want Lisa's car.
She's not going to give it to you. But
Not for the colors, let it be said. As a Florida State fan, it pains me to love a car as much as I do that's blue and orange. But Lisa's car just looks like you can get the speed out of it if you're confident enough. As Dan Cornish crosses the line, and I don't see Lisa Clark. She's in the pit lane. Yep.
Well, she looked at that second lap and said, I'm not going any faster than I did on the first one. The question is, in these next few hours between qualifying and the race, what are they going to do to the car? And how's the track going to change? That's the other thing. You look at these teams that are running cars in multiple sessions, I guarantee you the racetrack right now is not what Trofeo Pirelli qualified on.
No.
It's different. The temperature has come up. The ambient air temperature and pressure is different. The track temperature is different. That will all affect the tire pressures and how quickly the car comes in. So the engineers really had to take their data and their information from the first qualifying sessions for Trofeo Pirelli and then decide what changes do we want to make, if we are going to make any at all.
Well, and Brian, our resident Texan, although you don't live here anymore, I'm still putting you on the spot for this one.
Still have my Wranglers and boots on last
They
night.
did the same to me for Homestead. So, how different are the ambient temperatures going to be at 5 o'clock this afternoon as compared to right now?
Well, they're going to be brutal, and I can tell you that the racetrack tomorrow is going to be completely different because we're going to get rain. You know, and so that's the thing. It's like trying to guess. This is where your team comes in. This is not an individual sport. Everybody looks at the driver like they look at the quarterback. Guess what? If the quarterback doesn't have a line that blocks for them, they get eaten by the defense, right?
Exactly.
And if they have a line that blocks for them, they look like heroes, but the line gets no credit. Well, guess what? The engineers, the mechanics, they are the linemen. They are the offensive, defensive coordinator. This is a team sport. Do not doubt it at all. And it's going to be your team that makes those decisions, your engineers that look at the data and say, based upon what we know from our testing experience and our racing experience, as the temperature does this, as the barometer changes and does this, the grip is going to do this, and consequently, we need to do that. Everyone I've spoken to, I'm very impressed with these cars as the checker flag's out. Changes matter. we get a lot of cars where you can make changes and it really doesn't do much. You don't have a massive toolbox full of changes that you can make on these cars, but you can change spring rates. You have 2 sets of spring rates that you can use. You can make shock adjustments. You can make ride height adjustments, so you can change the rake or how the car tilts front to back. That changes the handling of the car. Not enough to take you into the woods and get you completely lost, but enough to make differences. And when I talk to these drivers, the changes do make a difference. So the engineers will make some changes and prepare these cars for the race later in the day.
Oh, congratulations, Lisa. The perfect season, or attempted perfect season, continues along as she gets another pole position on the season. That's 3 in a row. But I have to say, you're talking about those changes, getting comfortable with the car. Dane Cornish, fastest lap was his last lap. He's still 0.6 off the pole position that Lisa Clark was able to get. But that, to me, shows a driver who's learning every lap, getting more comfortable. And unfortunately for Lisa, he's feeling better and better the closer he gets to the race.
Well, yeah, when you're the driver that goes, I need 2, 3, 4 laps to kind of find it and get comfortable, and you might have another driver that has more experience and consequently can get there quicker, it's like, the problem is you're using up Pirelli tire to get comfortable, and by the time you get comfortable, you don't have quite the performance out of the tires that you would have had in the beginning. Pirelli's made a great tire, but just like every other racing tire in the world, it's going to peak in the beginning and then drop off. These tires do drop off, but then stay very consistent with a drop off. That's what you want as a race car driver. Now, Homestead, the first round of the championship, a little different ball game. You and I talked about this in Trofeo Pirelli qualifying. The aggregate that asphalt is made out of was sand, limestone, and seashells, right? So it's basically like racing on a cheese grater. You won't put a race tire through more punishment than you will racing it at Homestead. And by the way, it wasn't cool at Homestead either, was it?
No, it was quite spicy. It was a warm weekend, and I'm sure that Lisa Clark is glad that we don't have the same temperatures as we did at Homestead, right, Amanda?
Well, Shay, she exited the Ferrari with some fist bumps from her team, and Shay was just talking about a perfect season that is lining up for you so far, 3 poles in a row. But I was hearing you talking to your team and said you almost lost it there towards the end of the. How on edge were you driving this car?
Yeah, I put myself to my limits. So, yeah, there was a moment there I thought, oh, God, going into this turn, you are not doing good. But managed to, maneuver myself and, yeah, finished with my best lap of the weekend. So it was a good timing for me.
How much of it is just the experience? You said you've been here doing some test days all week long. How much of that is adding to this performance we're seeing of late?
Oh, I think for everyone, having that extra seat time at any track right before the race is a great thing for us. Racing as an amateur, especially at our levels. So everyone I know is really making the best use out of it.
Lisa Clark on pole here at the Circuit of the Americas.
Keeping the dream going, and for Lisa, this is exactly what she needed to do. Come in, keep the car clean, push the car to your limit, and she didn't overstep that. She came close to overstepping it. Learn what you can do, and then learn what you need to do in the race. So that was a very good qualifying session for Lisa.
I would say so. And again, a heady drive saying, hey, I drove it to my limit. You pointed that out, and that was absolutely key. Dan Cornish, it took him a while. As he gains more experience, he'll be able to get up to speed a little quicker. Maybe the car was lacking a little bit, but still a good lap. He's almost there.
Darren Bernstein and Dana Goodwin, easy for me to say, on the second row. Very good performances from both of them. Jeff Nunberg and Luis Perusquia on the third row. Anthony DiCarlo, Neil Langberg, and David Williams rounding out the field. I'm impressed by the second row qualifying efforts because Darren Bernstein and Dana Goodwin, they're not drivers that we've talked about yet as being up toward the front of the field. It shows that they're growing, they're learning, they're getting faster, and perhaps Circuit of the Americas fits their driving style.
Well, and I think what you see in Coppa Shell, and especially Coppa Shell&AM, you've got to remember that this is the least experienced group of drivers that are out here. Every time they get in the car and just do the belt, they learn something, right? It's still new enough that every time they're out, they learn something. Lisa said it. I drove it to my limit. Those limits expand the more you drive. You think about any sport that you may have played or, fans at home watching have done. You didn't go out and develop your single-digit handicap playing golf by playing twice and going to Topgolf, right? You didn't do that. It took a lot of hard work, a lot of frustrations, a lot of golf balls on the range, a lot of blisters, probably some language that your mother wouldn't like you to use. And lo and behold, you developed and you improved, but it came with work. None of this is easy. A lot of us feel like we can drive a car because we drive a car every day. This is not simply driving a car. Racing on a circuit is not going to the grocery store. It's just not.
And to put it in perspective, for example, pressing the brake pedal, pressing the brake pedal to its full extent. Imagine pushing a 200-pound weight as hard as you can 4 times a lap for 30 minutes. You're doing it, 60 times with one leg.
And you know, because you've looked at data before as well, it's not just pushing it as hard as you can, it's pushing it as hard as you can and then adjusting 10 pounds of pressure, 5 pounds of pressure to keep it balanced just right. It's where your eyes are, because your eyes are the key to the entire puzzle. I always tell students, your eyes steer the car. Your eyes look and your hands follow. If you don't believe that, how did you catch a baseball, a softball, a football, any of that? It's because you saw it and your eyes go where your hands go where your eyes look. These are all skills that these drivers are developing. And, you know, this 488 Challenge Evo, it's not a street car. Looks like a street car, but it's not a street car. It is built into a racing car. This is not about being brave. It's not about being brave at all. I tell people that all the time. If you bring a linebacker mentality into motorsport, you're not going to do well. This is not about crushing the car, crushing your opponent, crushing the racetrack. This is about finesse. It's about feel. It's about balance. It's a ballet. Even though it looks physical, and it is, but it is such a balance, such a ballet. And the ballet is about to begin, because as we get this lap in, pressures are going to come up. We're going to start seeing lap time.
Exactly, and a man who knows this finesse because he's figured it out is Cyril Choksi. He is leading these 18 cars out on the racetrack for the Coppa Shell qualifying as they see the green flag and start the first flying lap. So Ferrari of Denver being represented once again by Cyril, looking for his second pole position of the season and perhaps even his second pole position at Circuit of the Americas. Last year was a good venue for Cyril as he leads the way. Clear track is key for every driver, but particularly when you're starting an 18-car qualifying session.
Absolutely, and for Cyril, you know, a lot of drivers are here for different reasons, and you know, you'll hear drivers say, "Oh, my partner, my kids enjoy coming to the racetrack." Cyril is here because of his kids. He does it because his kids are motorsports fanatics. He's got 2 teenage sons, and he says, you know, if you make the grades, you can go to the racetrack. If you make the grades, you can go with us to Italy at the end of the year. If you make the grades. And so they're the ones that really push him. And he said, you know, this to me is more about bonding with my kids. I've never bonded with them more than what Ferrari Challenge has done by bringing them to me, and it gives us something to share. I said, what's your vision of the future? Do your kids race? He's like, oh, you know, they drive, you know, sometimes we'll go to the racetrack and they'll drive sometimes and they play on the simulator and this, that, and the other. And I said, but where do you see it in 10 years or so? And he goes, I would love to race with my kids. He said, that would be the goal for me, to share a car with my kids, or maybe run Ferrari Challenge and all run in the same class. But I mean, think about that. This can easily feed into future and existing IMSA platforms. Imagine running Sebring or the Rolex 24 with your kids, and it all began here in Ferrari Challenge because of their love of the race car, not just his.
Or even there are other series that exist that are endurance schedules where you can bring whatever car you want to go out there and run with whoever you want. I think that is a brilliant goal for Cyril, who comes into the season fighting as hard as he ever has. The win in the 3rd place at Homestead, Miami, resulting in him walking away with a slew of points. He's sitting pretty right now for this championship, but he realizes you got to keep it going. Unfortunately, one of the guys he's battling is Cameron Root in that car number 199. Cameron, who's come out of the scene, and he's really come out of left field, was shocking at Homestead, coming away with the championship lead.
We talk about being comfortable in the car, and right now Cameron Root looks very comfortable in the 199 just in the opening stages here. I'm going to be interested to see these lap times, because He is on it right now, big time. And the good thing for him is if he doesn't catch this car in front of him and just slowly reels him in, if he reels him in coming off of turn 11 onto the back straightaway, Shay, he could get a big draft. He's giving it up, though.
Yep, I think he realized that Mike Luley in front of him wasn't going to be enough of a buffer because he's on an outlap.
More of a blocker instead of a buffer.
An unintentional blocker, but
absolutely.
Mike Luley on the outlap taking time to put heat into his Pirelli tires. Nothing wrong with what he was doing at all. It was just his way of getting ready as we now see Ray Acosta very fast here this weekend is Ray. He's Custodio Toledo's business partner, as a matter of fact, and he's at the track because he and Custodio, when they sold their business, they went to the Ferrari dealership and they said, we think it would be fun to buy Ferraris. And the dealer said, well, I've got a better idea.
Have I got a deal for you?
So Ray Acosta coming into racing, the Miami, Florida native as he is now, coming into this season, was very good in the practice days. I'm curious to see what kind of lap time he can lay down in qualifying.
He was quick at Homestead as well. Didn't have the results that he wanted, had some problems there, but right now, the 107 seems to be set up a little bit softer. Let's see if that works. Remember, Cornish in the first qualifying session in the Coppa Shell&AM, that softer car took several laps to come in where the stiffer setup, and I believe that's what Cameron Root has on his, will be interesting to see. Two different approaches once again.
I think you're completely right on that, Brian. And honestly, we need to keep an eye on a guy who's currently much further down the field, Gray Favre. 18 seconds off the pace. He did a very gentle warm-up lap to get ready, but he was the fastest guy at the end of the official practice yesterday. I can't wait to see what kind of lap time he can come up with because yesterday we were seeing 2:11s. Now we're seeing 2:09.6. Big change in the track conditions, big change in the speed that is coming as a result. As Cyril Choksi still with the quickest time, Cameron Root in second, then Ray Acosta as Bruce Cleveland is up to fourth, and we look at David Veronin for Foreign Cars Italia. That's a team that's associated with the Riley name, so another good organization of setting up race cars. As, oh no, going for a spin. That is number 132. That's Jan Bernier on his outlap. Kind of a surprise to see that from Jan. He's a guy who's normally up at the front of the field.
Well, that's that carousel that leads into turn 15. Probably came through there. And I would imagine he said, I'm going to let the car slide a little bit. It's sliding a little bit, but that'll give me some temperature in the tires. That'll be fine. And then you kind of, it's good right up until the time it's not, right? And then it's gone.
And you see how there's a T after his name. That's because this is a backup car. So maybe Jan Bernier letting the car do what he thought it would do for the old car, but the T car reacting just slightly differently.
And I don't care how equal the cars are, they all have a different personality, right? It requires just a little tweak here, a little tweak there to make them the same. Oftentimes you can put the exact same setups on them and they're different. They just have a different personality.
We're watching Frank Szczesniak now for Ferrari of Austin. Beautiful exit of turn 20. Where does he jump up to? Third.
Yeah, so that was a great drive off the corner. So I'm coming off, the traction control working for Frank coming off the corner, just leaving that little haze of Pirelli rubber as he's trying to put that 670 horsepower to the ground. Great lap by Szczesniak.
That really was our pole sitter for race 2 at Homestead Miami Speedway. Szczesniak looking for another fast lap as there's a little bit of traffic there. Now, who was it who got held up? I think it was John Viscup for Boardwalk Ferrari. Yep, as now he comes through turn 20. Let's see if that cost him a lot of time. Crossing the line now, and does he improve? No, he does not improve on that lap.
I think it cost him on that lap, Shay, but I don't think it's going to hurt him on this one. He got back around, got online, got a good drive off of turn 20. Now, as a driver, what he needs to do is mentally put that behind him. Okay, yeah, that lap's gone. That lap's gone. Okay, fine. Focus forward. You can't do anything about what happened back there, right? So you got to focus forward, get this lap in.
All right, here's the car that I wanted to keep an eye on. Gray Favre, car number 197. Beautiful line as he turns onto the front straight. Where does he jump to? Don't see him on.
He's in fourth right now.
Fourth, yeah. Yep. That was a good lap for Gray.
Look at the difference right now. We've got less than a second between the top five, really just over a half a second between the top five. It's what makes this series so challenging. These drivers are starting to get better and better and better. We talked about that with Coppa Shell&AM. They're still learning. They're still improving in leaps and bounds. This group, they're improving every time out. but the improvements are smaller, and that's going to get everybody closer and closer together. That's exactly what we're seeing in qualifying.
Tor Haugen with the lap good enough for 14th, putting him just behind Roger Monteforte as Jan Bernier does get his lap in after the spinner lap. We were right, it didn't take anything off of him, up to 6th in class. So a good lap for Jan. He'll be pushing for another one. He's usually coached by Ian James, Daytona winner, Sebring winner, multiple champion in multiple different series.
I was talking to one of the instructors yesterday, or one of the coaches, and I said, you guys need to talk everybody into do a coach's race at one point in time. And then we decided that the damage may be too extensive to run the next weekend, so maybe a coach's race is not really a good idea.
Maybe after the season is done, because we are expecting to get the new
I was going to
cars.
say, after these cars are done,
Correct.
that'll probably be the thing.
That will be 296s running next year for Ferrari Challenge. That's going to be exciting as Paul Lynn is out for qualifying now. He took fast lap in the first race at Homestead, not fast lap in qualifying. So he knows he can set down a flyer. It's just putting it all together when the pressure is on in these 15-minute sessions, of which we only have 3.5 minutes to go. So already time winding down. And it does look like Jan Bernier is still on a fast lap because he used up every inch of track at the exit of 11.
You know, and for Paul Lynn, he had that fast lap. And the key is exactly what you said. He knows he can do it. Now that you know it, it's just a matter of going out there and putting all the pieces together and kind of smoothing it out and being able to do it not just once, but twice, 3 times. And that's where the consistency comes from. Find the speed and then find the consistency.
Let's see who is improving. Steve Czech is still out on track in car number 124. He is still quite a bit further back, but the Rancho Mirage driver getting up to speed on his first racing weekend at Ferrari Challenge is Jan Bernier at the opposite end of that spectrum, a guy with a lot of experience in this championship, looking to try and steal away that pole position from Cyril Choksi, who did come into the pit lane a long time ago. So again, a one and done from a potential pole sitter.
This car looks stable, really stable through the high-speed stuff. Bernier may have a shot at moving up. I don't know if he's got a shot at the pole, but the car looked really stable through the last quarter of this lap. I didn't see the first quarter. Let's see what happens.
Does he improve? Jan Bernier stays 6th, so no improvement in his lap time. 2:14.471, so not improving. The track is getting to the point where we're not seeing many improvements actually across anyone on the timing screen.
Yeah, I would think the third lap is really the lap where that's the most you're going to get, and that's where you're going to start to get that fall off. Bernier not slowing down the car through the S's here. Again, Shay, look at it. It's stable. Nice and stable. Not too soft, not too stiff.
There's Steve Czech still out on the track. Every lap that he's running now, he's learning. That's what you do when you come into this championship. The more, the better. As he's got an aggressive-looking bumblebee on the side. Reminds me, and I'm sure Amanda in the truck, of a competitor that we've had here in the past, Mr. Roy Carroll. Roy, we miss you in this series. But I'm very impressed by the lap we saw from Cyril Choksi. Potentially even more impressed by the lap we saw from David Veronin, who's come into this championship. No previous experience. He did climb the Ferrari ladder, as you are taught to do, the Corse Clienti, but the CEO of Migway, which is on the side of his car, it's a Charlotte-based trucking company that he and his family started. So wonderful to see these people coming up into the series and then excelling. David, his second race weekend, and a front row start.
Look at that. Within 0.4 of a second of Choksi on pole, and again, you look at the top 5, all within 0.7 of a second of each other, and that shows the competitive nature of the series. I'm looking forward to the race. The race that they had at Homestead, that was a track limits violation. I think the race control may look at there. The 1-2-3-T.
Robert McWilliams, coached by Mr. Matt Bell. Not the English version, the American version.
The American version.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
We always have to make that distinction.
We really do.
There is a Matt Bell who is English and a Matt Bell who is American, both very talented race car drivers.
Robert McWilliams of the DC area coming in and running for Ferrari of Washington. Still out on track as well, the 133, that's Matt Dalton, who's done a good job in qualifying. He's in the 12th spot now as the checkered flag is out. Can he improve and move himself up maybe 1 or 2 spots? He was 12th, he stays 12th.
Hard to do, and checkered flag is out, so the session's going to be over, but You know, it's one of those deals where Matt Dalton is another one of these drivers who is passionate about cars and driving. He had a huge accident a couple of years ago at Virginia International Raceway in another series. Came back from a broken back, broken ribs, broken leg. And I was talking to him yesterday, and he goes, there was no way I was going to stay away. I love it. I love it. And much like Carlos de Quesada, he said, it just shows you how special life is, and you reach out and you grab it with gusto when you can. And it's exactly what he's doing. One of the friendliest guys that you'll meet in the paddock. And he had a good second round at Homestead. Struggled a little bit in the first one. But for Cyril Choksi, no struggling today in qualifying. He did exactly what he needed to do. And I think that confidence from Homestead, Shay, is riding with him.
It really is.
How big's the smile going to be?
Oh, it's going to be ear to ear. I mean, Cyril is one of those people who loves coming to the Ferrari Challenge weekend because of the weekend. Every part that you get to go out there and experience, it's like a roller coaster. It's a joyride.
Well, the word that you use, the experience, and that's what it is all about. The experience of the pole is with Cyril Choksi. Amanda?
Well, I can confirm to you that that smile was ear to ear as Cyril takes in this moment. And I heard you talking to your driver coach, Robbie Foley, about some of the mistakes that you made on track, but it still led to this pole position for you. Are there things that you're going to look to clean up for race?
For sure, yeah. It was a good lap. It wasn't a great lap. I made 2 mistakes. The tires weren't fully up to temp, but I was pushing, and it all worked out, so it was great.
I was telling Cyril that Matt Krzyzewski was telling us that he was going to hang this on his Christmas tree, and Cyril said he's got to find a bigger tree. But Shay was just talking about how much you love the Ferrari weekends. Talk about it being racing days on top of it.
Well, racing days is amazing on top of Ferrari Challenge. I also have my entire family here. My wife is here, both boys are here, and my 14-year-old gave me one word for inspiration this morning: speed.
We will take that, and that speed will lead us to the green here in just a little while.
Lightning McQueen would be so proud of Cyril Choksi right now.
Short, sweet, to the point.
Speed.
Speed.
I am speed. And indeed, Cyril Choksi is getting another pole position and starting on the front row. Congratulations, David Veronin. Phenomenal performance in qualifying. Frank Szczesniak, pole sitter in Miami, will start in the 3rd position. He's got a good shot of leading into turn 1 as well when you get that draft. And Gray Favre in 4th. Cameron Root, championship leader, starts back in 5th with Jan Bernier for company. Ray Acosta and Eric Marsden make up row 4. And then Bruce Cleveland and John Viscup rounding out that top 10. Really good qualifying. And the most important part, Brian, all of the drivers in the field, Lance Colley, Matt Dalton, Mike Luley, Roger Monteforte, Tor Haugen, Paul Lynn, Steve Check, and Robert McWilliams, out of the total 18 drivers, they're all starting. We didn't lose a single car in qualifying. We didn't have a single issue in qualifying.
That's being smart, because you don't get to race if you don't make it through qualifying, right? So Great job by everybody. And what I saw was a lot of good cars in qualifying. They may not have gotten the ultimate lap, Shay, but I think the race, things are going to close down a lot.
It's going to be super competitive. Congratulations to Cyril Choksi. Good luck to his kids fighting over that trophy, because we know that that's coming
He needs
up.
to get another one.
Exactly. He needs more and more. And join us later to see who gets more trophies. Race number 1 for the weekend will be coming up at about 3:45 this afternoon, local time for Austin. So you do the math for wherever you are in the world, but it will be me, Brian, and Amanda once again.